Are you trying to dominate your fantasy football league? Do you want so many championship rings it's impossible to sign autographs? Well, crack open a beer, pour yourself a glass of bourbon, and settle in, because you've come to the right place. Welcome to Hammercast.
And welcome into Hammercast Network, boys. We are talking football, and it's the NFL Draft. You guys are used to seeing me talking golf, but I'll be doing that on Tuesday night. Got a lot to talk about for that there. But in the meantime, we are going to talk NFL Draft. We are going to talk every single team. We're going to go through the AFC, then we're going to go through the NFC. We're going to talk about the best grades, the best players, the best moves, and we got us our celebrity from over the pond, Joseph Russ, back with us tonight from Hammercast UK, Chicago Bear fan. You know, it's funny. He finally wants to come back on board because something good happened for Chicago Bears. And so, anyway, we're excited to have you back, Joe. I know you're gonna. I know it's like 1 in the morning over there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Okay. Well,
I got a pint of vodka, so I'm all right.
Or something. And we have the one and only Hammerconda himself, Kenneth Smith, back on the air.
Hey, you know what? It's been a little while.
He's usually in the boardroom working the numbers.
That's what I do. You know, actually, I'm out recruiting listeners and watchers daily, and so we bumped up our listeners by what would you say, 8,000% since I've been doing that.
Yeah, those shuffleboard beer drinkers, man, they're all over it.
Hey, I wear this shirt everywhere I go.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're glad to finally see you back. Hopefully, we're going to get you back on the air a lot this year. We've got
a lot of fun stuff coming up right now.
Things that we're going to be working on and getting put together, and so, you know, it should be a lot of fun.
I want to listen to Kenneth's karaoke as well one night as well.
Oh, it's award winning actually. You'll see.
It's a major award.
Well, it is. I mean, I'm a local legend here.
You know what? You know, the funny thing is, I'm not sure if he's any better than his brother, though.
Oh, nobody can beat him. He's the best.
Yeah, his brother D is like one of my best buddies. Not only is he a karaoke king, but also a dance off guy. He can do a dance off and throw his flip flops and in Knoxville.
It's a story for a whole nother day, but we will play. I'm not sure those flip flops were meant to come off. I think they literally just went flying off the feet. Anyway, guys.
That was awesome. Hey, guys, by the way, we're going to have a lot of people coming and going into this show tonight. It's going to be a light, fun, casual show. We're just going to talk football, have some fun, bullshit with each other. Nothing serious, no hardcore agenda, no timeline. We are going to start with the AFC. First of all, the draft, it was all right. I only watched the first round, but I caught up with everything else. But we're going to start with the AFC and kind of go through what we feel are the best picks from each team, give our overall grade. I'm going to go through some of the grades I'm seeing online already with some of the other big sites and kind of get your thoughts on what you think about those guys and all the stuff they're doing. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. You know what? Let's start with the NFC. And the reason I want to start with the NFC is because I know that Joe is chomping at the bit to get to the Chicago Bears, and I don't want to. He's overseas, and so we're going to get him going first. We're going to go with Arizona Cardinals first, guys. I don't know about the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not sure what you guys are thinking about them. When I looked at their overall grade, their biggest weapon, they only drafted one offensive player.
All right.
And that's Rondelle Moore. What do you guys think about that pick?
I don't know about Rondelle Moore. I know that we've been talking about him now for a couple of years, and our buddy Kevin, he likes him a lot. He's a smaller guy, and I'm not. Is that really what they? I mean,
yeah, he's 5'7", 181, and the funny thing is good old Thor is comparing him to DJ Moore. That's his comp for him, and but he was taken as the 6th receiver off the board, which was a little surprising for me. But he was a second-round pick, and so I don't know, Joe. What are your thoughts on Rondelle?
I think the Cardinals are, clearly hurting because they missed the postseason last season, and obviously the acquisitions they've made in free agency and some of the intentions they've made here at the draft means that they can ill afford to miss the postseason again. I think he's a great pickup. I think Zaven Collins, in the first round was another great pick for them, and obviously the money they've invested in JJ Watt and the likes of sort of James Conner through free agency means that this team means business this year. And Kyler Murray, a full fit Kyler Murray, they're going to take some stopping.
I agree
good
with
moves.
that.
Good moves.
David Collins is a badass. I mean, that guy's 6'5", 260, can go vertical, go horizontal. That guy is really good. As a matter of fact, they're comparing him to Tremaine Edmonds. And so he is going to make a big difference on that defensive in that secondary. I'm not secondary, but as a linebacker back there. And so I'm pretty excited about that pick.
I think they was upset because they didn't make the playoffs last year. I really do. They felt they was in it till the last game, wasn't they? And it sort of all went wrong. And I think they mean business. And the windows close early, as we know. And that massive acquisition of JJ Watt and the capital they've invested means that they have to go deep into the postseason this season. So I think we've seen that again at the draft, and I think Rondelle Moore will be, a very good acquisition for the Cardinals.
Well, hey, for fantasy purposes, Rondelle Moore, thoughts?
I haven't got him.
Rondelle Moore, what?
For fantasy football purposes, where would you put Rondelle Moore now?
And as far as wide receiver rookies,
I don't think that's a great landing spot.
I don't know, man. I think with Hopkins getting all those top cornerbacks, and I think they can pull. And he's obviously going to pull the coverage. Rondelle Moore does have the speed and the athletic. I don't know. I think he could be pretty good. I think he's not going to be a Justin Jefferson first year, but I believe that he can go out and he'll have some clean routes that he can run, and so I think he's going to be a great player. And I think Kyler Murray is going to know how to hit it.
I say
AJ Green, I think, as well is going to have he's on his 1-year contract, but I think he could be quite productive. And again, with them two, Rondelle Moore when he gets his touches could be a little bit of gold dust here and there for them.
Christian Kirk also. Every year we usually put our projections for fun to see our stat projections. I bet that without even studying right now, I don't think I'd have him over 500 yards his first year. Maybe about that. Anyway, I think there's a lot of mouths to feed.
Speaking of that, one of the things that we're going to be doing for those that are watching, and we are going to be adding the Hammercast rankings, and we are going to do a dynasty ranking and a redraft ranking, and we're going to update it every 2 weeks or every week. Or if anything significant happens, obviously it's going to be a live rankings that we're going to have on the website. Maybe we can still talk Joe into putting his in as well. But we've got we're going to have a complete staff rankings with a collated total for everybody. It's going to be kind of fun, and so it'll be interesting to see how it varies from analyst to analyst, and so I'm looking forward to that. As a matter of fact, Guru from the golf team is going to be putting his spreadsheet magic together to create this for us. And so be looking out for that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we look forward to being able to present that as well as other new tools for your fantasy toolbox for this upcoming season. And so be on the lookout for all that cool stuff too.
Yeah. Now's a good time to remind everybody, this is a football show, but guys, if you play DFS, anything – like us, we like to play just about anything we can play.
We bet on how long it takes a cricket to cross the road.
Exactly, shuffleboard tournaments.
Right.
You got to check out our golf stuff. It's every week we're putting out that model for free. Guys, I've seen people charging upwards of $80 a month for the same stuff we're doing for free, and we are good. Nick is awesome. And then MMA is incredible too. That guy's crazy. Good.
Right.
Anyway, enough about that.
Some of the other piece of good news, which we just now are getting out to, and I hadn't even announced it yet, is Guru Nick is we do believe he's going to work on some spreadsheet magic with football this year too, and so there's going to be some really good intel going into our website, and not only in the rankings but in weekly model cheat sheets.
Yep.
So, based on matchups and things like that, and so we're real excited about the future at Hammercast. It's looking really good.
Cool.
He's a great guy, Nick.
He's fantastic and nicest guy you'll ever meet, and we're very fortunate and blessed that he's part of the team here. But let's go to a team that I'm really excited about because obviously they got a new quarterback, and Carolina Panthers. And now Thor didn't give those guys an A grade. And did you guys see Joe Horn bitching about his son who got drafted, 8th overall, and bitching that he get enough love on the air?
What?
J.C. Horn got picked number 1-8. He's a cornerback. He's a
cornerback, yeah.
They comp him to Aqib Talib, and he's a badass. But he bitched about them not giving him enough coverage on the show when he got drafted. And I'm just like, come on, man. I'm sure JC didn't appreciate that either. But let's talk about Terrace Marshall.
Another talent. I mean, lining up again, obviously it's DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. This is all good news for Sam Darnold. It's a great move for him personally. He's not going to get too many more chances to, I won't say fail, because the sort of tools around him in New York wasn't what they're going to be for Zach Wilson. But this is a positive move. I think that their drafting of Chubby Hubbard as well with 126 pick was a good move as well. So they're on the up. The Panthers are on the up. They got rid of Teddy Bridgewater, which they've been trying to do for a while. He's gone to Denver, which is an absolute car crash alongside Drew Lock. So. Good news for Carolina, big star. Terrace Marshall Jr. If he shows the production that he can, that's an excellent acquisition.
Awesome. Hey, by the way, joining us fresh, Fantasy GI Joe, otherwise known as Guru Supreme in the Masters leagues and some of the other leagues, and this guy is also the new host of one of our brand new shows. And introduce yourself. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Man,
doing good, my main man.
Rock and roll. Glad you can come in. You got a beverage with you tonight?
No, not right now. I haven't made it to the store yet. I'm still in the office.
I hear you. Well, hey, you missed all the Arizona Cardinal talk, and we're on Carolina Panthers. What are your thoughts on Carolina's draft? And by the way, Joe is an IDP specialist. He's the new show is all about IDP, and we're really looking forward to doing a lot more IDP content this year, and so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, well, Carolina, they I like what they did. They went cornerback early with J.C. Horn, and I think that was a great choice. They got one of the top 3 corners in my opinion, and then of course Terrace Marshall was a weapon, another weapon for them to add with DJ Moore and of course McCaffrey. They're not looking too bad there overall. I think they did some pretty good things. They may have missed on a few picks. I'm not a fan of Chubby Hubbard, but
I like him.
Yeah. I mean, he may fit well with them. I mean, and hopefully, I'm sure they're hoping they don't need him. But with McCaffrey and stuff, he is.
Didn't they trade Mike Davis to Atlanta?
Yeah,
I don't remember. I know he's there.
He won there.
Yeah, they did. Rodney Smith's going to be the one to watch out for in Carolina this year. So,
yeah.
Well, what I find interesting is Chubby Hubbard. Last year Chubby Hubbard was considered one of the top 5 running backs.
Absolutely.
And he was all the talk. And he didn't play very well. And he went 4th round this year as the RB10. And Thor's comping him to Tevin Coleman. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the guy's 6 foot, 210. A little small for that height, for my opinion. But I don't think he's going to. I don't. If Christian McCaffrey is healthy, man, he's not going to get much time. So,
no, and in a dynasty league, he's a good late round choice if he's there because he's a great handcuff. And we saw Mike Davis put up RB1 numbers with McCaffrey out, and we all know Mike Davis probably isn't that good. So that offense is set up pretty good for whoever does come in. So he would be a great late round stash in a rookie draft.
One of the things I like the most about Terrace Marshall is obviously, you know, a lot. I mean, those LSU receivers, and of course Joe Brady was his coordinator, right? And so they were united. I think Joe Brady knows exactly how to use him, and having guys like, to your point earlier, Joe and Kenneth, you know, having, you know, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore up there, plus with Christian McCaffrey
and this is Robbie Anderson's last year of his contract, I think, too.
Right. So, as a matter of fact, they're comping Marshall to Cortland Sutton. You know, he's a big guy. He's 6'2", 190 pounds, and he's got speed. And so he can win those big balls too, those jump balls. And so I think that's a pretty good play. But I do believe their best draft pick overall was J.C. Horn. I mean, getting a guy like that, true shutdown corner at 1.8. They're out for it this year, man. I think it's going to be pretty exciting.
Is somebody
drafted well?
Is somebody's computer about to take off into space? Or is that my computer? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah, I thought you were hoovering or something.
Yeah. Like, man, somebody's is working hard. Anyway,
we're come to the moment of truth for our man over in the UK. We're going to go right to the Chicago Bears. By the way, I give the Carolina Panthers an A overall, and I forgot to give my grade. My grade for the Falcons. Oh, I missed We'll go back to the Falcons. We're going to go to the Bears, and then we'll skip back to the Falcons. My Arizona Cardinal one, I forgot to give the grade on that one. I gave him a B. I don't know what you guys think.
B+.
Yeah, okay. I'd go B+. I think that's pretty fair.
And where are you guys at on Carolina?
I'm with you on an A, definitely.
Yeah, they landed maybe the best corner and a really good. I wanted the Titans to take Terrace Marshall.
Me too.
I was praying, but
me too. All right, let's get to the Bears. Let's get to the Bears. First and foremost, they just to get Justin Fields at 111, and that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to go ahead and let Joe go into the Bears. Go ahead, Joe. This is all yours.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I mean, you sort of sit there as it was here, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're like watching it, thinking, you know, we're already quite on a high after the Aaron Rodgers news that come out, which is just getting funnier and funnier. Every article you read, I mean, that guy is pissed off, isn't he? So, you know, it's you're sort of watching the picks come in. Obviously, I sort of try and break a draft down in stages by 3 picks at a time. So I think there was so much mystery around the 49ers pick. I thought, you know, that was, nobody really knew what they was going to do. Is it going to be Justin Fields? Is it going to be, you know, we had all the Mac Jones hype. He's going in the top 5. This is why they've traded up. You know, none of that was accurate, but this is, you know, it wouldn't be a draft without, you know, we wouldn't have shows like this if there wasn't the rumors. That's what a lot of it's about. But, you know, when it sort of got past and Trey Lance is selected, and, you know, we're sort of, I'm thinking, oh, right, I wonder where Penei Sewell's going to go. So I sort of followed him for the next few picks. And obviously the Bengals have taken Chase and the Dolphins are doing their business. And then you're sort of going, right, I'll start looking at the next 3. You know, still at this point, not considering anything. And I'm starting to look at the picks in front of us and think, well, they don't need a quarterback. So then you start kidding yourself going, geez, if he's still there. And then you go, no, I'm not going to do it to myself. So I think the only time I started to really consider it was when the Broncos were on the clock. Right. And I'm sort of thinking to myself, they're going to take him. They've got Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. You know,
right.
Fields is an upgrade on both of them. But and then it's sort of, they pass and it's like, whoa, shit, this is. And then obviously I remembered, you know, a couple of weeks ago, Gettleman at the Giants publicly, you know, sort of made it obvious that he would be happy to, you know, trade back if there was any offers. And you start thinking, well, you know, this could happen. And then, you know, for people that don't watch the NFL draft or don't understand it, I really urge you to get into it, because, you know, I'm a man in my 40s and I was dancing in my front room in silence because everyone was asleep because the logo changed on the screen, and we traded up, and it's like, fuck, So like, you know, and then it's like the longest 10 minutes ever. But of course, as it gets down to 2 minutes, you're going, it's going to be Mac Jones. It's going to be Mac Jones. They're going to pick Mac Jones. You don't want Mac Jones, but you know. And then Roger Goodell comes out, and it was one of the first picks as well, where, you know, there's a guy there behind him, and he has to give us his life story, which was great. But you're like, hurry up, just get on. And you know, when he said the name, it's just like, just a massive relief. And you know, to feel that there is now an opportunity, because that's all it is at this stage, an opportunity to challenge and progress the organization, especially at that position, is absolutely massive. And all the talk about Russell Wilson, you know, they need to trade 3 first-rounders, 4 first-rounders. We didn't need to do any of that, you know, to get Justin Fields, who's an absolute steal for me. And I can't really see why he dropped so far, but obviously so glad he did, because he wouldn't have been the original plan. And look, credit, let's say the words credit to Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, because they've taken so much crap, and rightly so. But they made a good choice here, and they reacted, and you know, it's unbelievable. And not just there, you know, Tevin Jenkins as well. This guy, I'm slowly falling in love with already. Some of the stuff he's coming out with, you know, he seems an angry person. He wants to fight everyone and take them all on, and that's brilliant. That's what you want to hear. But you know, Daz Newsome as well, even Tonga in the 7th round, and you know, a defensive tackle as well. Is it's just a superb draft. Cannot complain, you know, one bit. And on top of the Rodgers news and the fact that the Vikings, for me, yeah, they've done okay, but you know, they've still got Kirk Cousins, haven't they? So you know, it bodes well for the future. But it took me probably till today to sort of come down off cloud 9 from, you know, not just me, I think every Bears fan, just to know that there's now an opportunity to possibly achieve something. And you know, that's absolutely priceless, especially when, you know, you've made the choices we have for the last 102 years at that position. So yeah. Personally, absolutely buzzing. So what did you guys think of that pick?
Well, I'll tell you, Tevin Jenkins, his PFF grade for you know, is one of the best run blockers in the entire draft.
Yeah, he's in some mocks. He was in the 1st round as well. So you know, we traded up to get him as well. So again, smart move.
Yeah, they solidified their offensive line and their quarterback, and I honestly think Justin Fields is a stud. He's faster than Deshaun Watson, and I think he has an amazing arm. I don't know, man. I'm just, you know, he had a 91 plus PFF grade the back-to-back seasons at Ohio State, and no Ohio State quarterback's done that. And so, you know, to get him at 11, typically those quarterbacks are reserved top 3. And the reason he fell, obviously, was because of the announcement that he had epilepsy, but he hasn't had something since junior high school. But there's a little bit of a threat. And so, you know what? Hey, I can see that would be a threat, and that would off-put somebody. But when you get a generational talent guy like that, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, and he's tough. You know, what I like is he's tough as well. You know, he's got that dual threat ability, but he's not afraid to take a hit, as you know, we saw in that game against Clemson, where he was smashed, but he carried on. He scored 6 touchdowns. He's got that mentality. And what always makes me laugh is, like, every time, I don't know, it's the same in most sports. If something good happens, you know, like this did to us, you know, certain people within seconds want to try and knock it down. So it's like we've literally drafted the kid, and within 2 minutes, people are going, "Oh, he's not happy. Oh, did you see him sat on his sofa? He's not smiling." It's like, who gives a shit? I'm sure it's like he's going to be fine, and I'm sure he's happy. But you know, there's been people, "Oh, we should have done the offensive line. We should have done the offensive line if this opportunity wasn't there." Anyone that says we should not have taken this opportunity is an absolute nutcase. So, yeah, absolutely thrilled to bits, and can't wait to see his progression, which, you know, Andy Dalton starts week 1. I don't see if that changes, but it does change in a strange sort of way, because Andy Dalton was brought in not expecting Justin Fields. Andy Dalton was brought in to maybe think that there's going to be a Kellen Mond there or something like that, but Justin Fields is there now, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes through the offseason.
Yeah, Andy's going to have 4 games max. That's my opinion. 4 games.
Yeah, I agree.
soon as they go 0-4.
It's not bad for $10.6 million, though, is it?
Yeah, and I mean, how often can a franchise draft a quarterback and you could, I mean, with an opportunity of knowing that he could be one of the best QBs the Bears have ever had in their franchise within the next 3 years. You know, it won't take long if he lives up to the hype. And even then, he doesn't have to be a top 5 quarterback to do that, because the Bears have always, you know, been about defense and have never really got that true star at quarterback. So it's kind of exciting for the franchise to do that. And really, a lot of the offense around you guys, I think it's going to – Allen Robinson's been playing his whole career with subpar quarterbacks and still put up top 12 numbers almost every year. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet as well. I really am. It's first time in a while you can say you get pretty pumped with the Bears offense.
I think Cole could be a sneaky, really good tight end this year. I'm glad you brought him up. That guy, he really started showing his stuff last year with terrible quarterback play.
Yeah.
And a young rookie throwing the ball is going to be looking for that tight end. And so I think he could be a great play this year.
And just to finish, just on that court, obviously, you know, the quarterback you mentioned, then Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, I've read on some Bears fan pages today. People are still slagging him off, right? He's not even there anymore. Let him go. Let him have a career, whether it's as a backup in Buffalo for the next 5 years. It wasn't all his fault. We need to just wish him the best and stop going on about it, because he's not there anymore. Time to move on.
Well, and he has that Patrick Mahomes curse, you know, with the Bears trading up over Mahomes to get Trubisky. So he's never going to live that down, unfortunately.
Hey, guys, take care. I'm going to hop off. I've got a couple things to take care of, but I'll be listening. You guys are the experts. Looking forward to the rest.
All right, Kenneth. We'll talk to you later.
See you guys.
All right.
See you later.
Well, cool. So overall, grades on the Bears?
A+, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to go A+++++, and add 75 million more pluses. And if I can't be excited about this, then, you know, I can't be excited about anything. So I'm probably just way biased on this one. So I'd listen to what Josie's more than mine.
Well,
yeah,
and there's
there's
no other draft that turned around their franchise, I don't think, quite like this one. Now, there was other, like the Dolphins, you know, they built their whole, you know, a lot of their team off of this draft, but just this pick right here just changes the franchise of the Bears' outlook for the next 5 years easy.
I agree. And once again, that Tevin Jenkins, man, the 39th pick in the second round, you know, he comes to Joe Thuney. You know, the guy's 6'6", 317 and graded as one of the best run blockers in the draft. I'm just – they did so good. This is you're right. This is the kind of draft that can totally change your franchise. And good for them. Good for them. You know, let's see what works out. And so, you know, I thought that was pretty good. Hey, we skipped over the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to skip back up to them because this is a draft that I've seen all across the board from the experts. I've got some experts calling them the best draft in the league. I got some experts giving them a B-. And so I guess, you know, beauty in the eye of the beholder. But you can't argue about that number one pick at 1-4, can you?
In my opinion, taking Kyle Pitts, he was the best player available, but for what the Falcons need, which is a lot, unless they know already what they're doing in next year's draft, which they may already know what's going on there. But I think that a lot of their, especially Pitt's pick, I would not have went that route. I'm happy to see him go there for fantasy football production, but for Atlanta as a team to try to win games and start over, I don't necessarily think that was the best pick for them.
I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you. I same sort of thing. You know, I mentioned Penei Sewell before, and I just think that was more, that was the better fit for them. But like you say, best player available, and that's the thing with the draft. People sometimes, you know, that's the tack they go, well, he's the best player available, but is he necessarily, unless Matt Ryan has said, look, I am going to play for the next 4 seasons, that gives them time to address. But they do seem like they're going to have to be you score this many and we're going to have to score more. That seems to going to have to be the Falcons' approach, I think, for their upcoming season. So for point spreads, a way early look at point spreads with Falcons games, it may be quite high because that only really seems to be the way. I mean, look, they could pull it off because now there's Pitts, Ridley, Russell Gage, Julio Jones if he's still there. So, that maybe have to be the route that they go down.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is a freak, though. I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. I mean, obviously, his comp is Tony Gonzalez, and he's 6'6", 245, and he runs a sub 4.4, right? Or he ran a 4.4?
Yeah, 4.4. Yeah,
4.4. So anyway, there's no linebacker that can run with that guy, or safety. And then you think about how the quarterbacks. I mean, come on, they're busy.
And if like Julio Jones were to go down, and which he often does, it seems like, or he's out after one drive, Pitts I think can fill those shoes on the outside, almost seamlessly compared to anyone else they have besides Ridley immediately.
I'm glad to bring that up because not a lot of people are talking about that, and I agree with that. I do. He's a receiver that can play tight end and he can block, and so there's a lot of value there. I still don't think he was. I mean, obviously, because of the scarcity of the position, he was probably probably the best play. But Jamar Chase is the best pass catcher in the draft, and so they went back to back right there at 4 and 5. But yeah, I get it. And the rest of the guys, I mean, then they went safety, then they went offensive tackle, cornerback. I do like Jalen Mayfield, the offensive
good play,
third round.
Yeah, and Richie Grant, the safety they took, he's a good player. He's going to be an immediate starting safety, but I would have liked to seen them go edge rusher or linebacker, and for what I would have seen, because they have a competent safety as well as Keanu Neal, who is really, really good, very underrated. He's just on the Falcons, who have no one else hardly other than Deion Jones. They need a pass rusher, like something fierce, and I would have liked to seen them go there, but they didn't miss with this pick at all. I just would have preferred to see them go for an edge rusher.
They didn't take an edge rusher until the 5th round. In their second pick in the 5th round, pick 182, when they went with Adetokunbo Ogundeji. And they compare him to Jabal Shear, which isn't bad. He's 6'4", 260, and he could develop into something I think pretty good for a late 5th.
Yeah, he's a developmental prospect, and that could pan out for them. I would have preferred them to go earlier for that position, but they may be able to pull it off, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't surprising they didn't take a linebacker or an edge. They didn't take did they take a linebacker at all?
No.
They didn't. They didn't take a linebacker, and so and their edge rusher was their 7th player pick in late in the 5th.
Well,
so we'll see.
And I was honestly kind of expecting them to, not necessarily expecting, but an option they had at the 4th overall. If they could have traded back with that 4 overall and got a few first rounders, one this year and one in the future, and got a Jamar Chase or an old Sewell. Obviously, the Bengals weren't going to take him, so they could have traded to 6 or beyond, 7, 8, and they could have gotten a line with that pick, and then went and got Parsons instead of going to Dallas to go to Atlanta. I think that would have been a great steal at wherever they would have landed. And even in the top 10, I think Parsons there would have been great. Would have been good for them. It would have been good for anyone playing IDP fantasy football. Which he was really going to be pretty good anywhere. But for them, that would have been an option I would have considered, which they may have.
Right. Well, speaking of Parsons, Dallas Cowboys, that's our next up. By the way, Atlanta, I'm giving them a B+ just because of Pitts. But what are you guys thinking overall on Atlanta's grade?
I'll give them a B for me. The jury's still out, though. I think in a couple of years we could look back at this and really it could swing, either way, pretty heavy. But yeah, I would go with a safe B.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, B+. I've seen him rated A+ on a lot of reports today, which seems a little bit high for me. But I think your B+ is round about there. But point spreads the Atlanta Falcons next season.
Let's go back to when you were talking about Michael Parsons. He is a stud linebacker and 112 overall. Let's go to the Dallas Cowboys because I will tell you personally, for me, the Parsons was a good pick. And I even liked Kelvin Joseph at cornerback here in the second pick.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not a big fan of this draft. I'm not a big fan of the Cowboys draft. And they've been drafting pretty good the last few years. It was an all defensive draft. As a matter of fact, they didn't take an offensive player. The only offensive player they took was a fifth rounder with Simi Fehoko. The big wide receiver. 6'4".
I think they had to do that, though. I think credit to, and it must be hard for Jerry Jones to have sort of gone nearly full on defensive, because he loves the razzmatazz, the all the stuff that goes with stellar offensive players. So I actually think that it's a sensible draft for the Cowboys. It's not going to take too much to win that division, is it really? If we're honest. I think they drafted well for what they needed this season.
Yeah, I think they drafted really well to try to win now. I mean, not all their money, but a lot of their money is poured into their offense. And, Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott and Zeke. And a draft like this, to have these rookie contracts for 4 years plus potentially, is going to bode well for them. And I like Washington a lot, but after this draft, I think they're probably a slight edge favorite to win that division. And their top two picks, like you said, that corner Joseph, he's an immediate starter, and that was their biggest need last year, was corner and safety, so defensive back. And Parsons is going to be an immediate top. I don't see a world where in fantasy football he's not a top 20 linebacker immediately. I mean, they always produce stud linebackers there, no matter who walks in. Sean Lee and Alden Smith, or who they have now. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I think he's going to be an immediate, Yeah. So, I like the draft, personally. I don't care for the team, but I like the draft.
Yeah, they drafted. I'll give them an A. They drafted well for what they need.
I'm sitting there on a C, but that's just me. I will tell you this: that Thor gave him a D plus, and so I don't know. I do think they were really disappointed because they really wanted to get either J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. And when neither one of them were available, they had to settle a little bit. And don't get me wrong, Micah Parsons is a badass, and I think he's going to give them some pretty good immediate help. But
I just thought it was quite good as well, wasn't it, that they traded with each other, the Cowboys and the Eagles as well. Obviously, there's no love lost there between the pair, is there? So that shows how much they both hate the Giants.
Yeah. Well, awesome. And they're probably a little scared of the Washington football team. I mean, with what their front four, just their front four alone there is something to be a little worrisome about, especially if you have to play them twice a year.
Right. Yeah, I think the NFC East should be a little bit better than they were last year. Last year was a train wreck.
Can't be any worse.
And so, but Kenneth is still on there saying they like the Cowboys draft. Hey, you know what? Time will tell. A lot of people do like it. I felt bad for them because they didn't get the guys they want. Normally, Jerry gets that guy.
And like Joe said, I kind of give a rare kudos to Jerry Jones for not, forcing the hand. I mean, they took what was available and what they needed. They didn't reach for anywhere that I can see. And in the past, I feel like Jerry Jones would have tried to trade up for whatever he wanted and would have given the next year or two of picks away for it. And really, after signing Dak Prescott, they, as much as a lot of people love to hate on them, they are a dangerous team when they're all on the field. And a lot of their holes on defense they addressed this year, assuming those players play up to their projection. Right. And so I do give them kudos for that, for not doing what they've done in the past and go for the flashy, player every year, especially on offense.
I get it. And you know what? This may be a good year for them. They'll have Dak back. They'll have a lot of things. And Kenneth just made a really good point as well. Let's go ahead and jump to Detroit Lions. A lot of people are calling Detroit Lions the top 3, top 4, top 5 draft class. And someone talking about falling in your lap. How about Payne falling all the way to 1-7? Where they were really top 5.
probably couldn't have dreamt of a better pick at 7. I mean, without doing anything, without even any trades happening in front of them, draft day, to see Sewell fall to them was just a shock to me. Incredible. I mean, I thought once Cincinnati passed on him, which I wasn't agreeing with, I thought Miami got a gift, and then they passed on him, which I get that they want to, and they got a good tackle later, but I would have went Sewell if I were them. So then Detroit, I was like, well, what's the most Detroit thing to do right here? And that would be to pass on Sewell. So I was almost shocked. Not only was I shocked that he fell to them, I was shocked that they actually did the right thing.
I think they're in a good position now, aren't they? I mean, obviously the Matt Patricia era had to come to an end, and obviously Dan Campbell's coming in. I think immediately addressed the quarterback situation, because that couldn't continue. Stafford couldn't stay under a new era. He needed a change. Detroit needed a change. So I think it's been nothing but positivity for them since the new management came through the door. And again, like Joe mentioned, then this is just another gift just given. We've touched on the Falcons. Potentially should have been the ones that took Sewell for me. Obviously, then you've got the Bengals, who have been heavily linked with Sewell throughout the off season up until a few weeks ago, when Joe Burrow says, "Yeah, but I kind of want my boy Chase," which, as a guy that watches a lot of LSU, I understand why he said that. And they're going to hook up again, which maybe not great news for T. Higgins owners, who I am one of, but that's another story. But and then obviously, he sat there and the Lions are on the board, and it makes perfect sense. And Jared Goff has got a nice bit of protection that he wouldn't have expected. And he's a beast, isn't he? He's some size as well, and the strength, the way he holds the opposition is, pretty impressive.
Well, when his comp is Trent Williams, and he's 6'5", 331, he's a beast. And you know what? They're gonna make him a Hall of Fame guy.
He's a franchise tackle. I mean, he's a tackle that you see there for 12, 13 years, and you don't get that every year in a draft. I mean, you just don't. So they got gifted that, and then they didn't go for the sexy picks later on either. They built within. They went back-to-back inside defensive linemen, which they needed. I mean, they need a lot. But those were two pretty good players right there in the middle that are good for run support, and they're not players that were going to be heavily sought after in fantasy football. But for as far as winning games, those were two really good picks.
Yeah, you know what? The pick I think I like the best. I like their 4th round receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. That guy, in a lot of Devy circles, even our boy Kevin had him ranked really high, and for him to get taken in the 4th round, he's got a real a compliment to Sterling Shepard. He's 6'1", 197. I mean, he's played at USC. I think getting a guy like that really could surprise. I think he will be a productive, proven receiver in the NFL, and I think that's only going to help that offense.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Good news. Good news for the Lions. Obviously, they've made good moves anyway, all these changes, and obviously they've got DeAndre Swift, who's going to go up another level, and Jamal Williams is in now. So, this is how quick the NFL can turn around, can't it? I'm sat here last season, even though we made the playoffs, everyone's depressed. Look, in one draft, we're all happy. The Lions under Patricia are this doom and gloom, and just in an instance, a change can change your fortunes. And they keep going in the right way, and that is up at this moment in time for the Lions. So power surge in the NFC North. The Bears and the Lions are taking over, sticking the Packers and Vikings where they should be.
I think they're a few years away for that.
Do you guys feel like they upgraded or downgraded at quarterback with Goff?
Downgraded for sure, but I think they knew where they were with Stafford and his career, and where they were as a franchise. Winning 6 games and 4 games isn't that much of a difference in football when you're not winning any more than that. So you might as well get the capital. They took on a lot of salary, but they also got rid of some salary, and they can cut Jared Goff with a limited amount of dead cap after this year. So he doesn't have to really be there for the max is 2 years. And he's competent. I know he catches a lot of crap, but For where they are in a franchise right now, I think that they're right where they need to be at the quarterback, so they don't get too high in draft picks.
I think definitely a downgrade as in talent to talent. But it's there's lots of money in every deal in the NFL, but it's relatively risk free as you touched on then, Joe. He's a little bit younger, and he's got that point to prove, which I think is priceless, because he's been to the Super Bowl. He's then had his disagreements with Sean McVay, etc. If you're led to believe a lot of the stories that I read, so he's actually got a point to prove, and what better place to do it where he's not going to be under so much scrutiny as you are in Los Angeles. So it'll be given a little bit more grace, to fit in. And I don't mean this disrespectfully. People are still going to be like, oh, it's a Detroit Lions, so it'll be overlooked. It won't be obsessed about as it will be as it would be in somewhere like New York or San Francisco or Chicago, places like that. So I think it could be a really smart move. And like Joe said, if it goes wrong, there's options to move on. But I think he'd be just fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of impartial here, but I will say that the reason I bring that up is I see a lot of people out there over the top saying that DeAndre Swift is now a candidate for RB1 next year, and I'm like, whoa, I like the guy, I like Swift, but let's cool our jets a little bit. Still Detroit, and they downgraded at quarterback. Yeah, they get an amazing offensive tackle, but come on, guys. Let's slow your roll a little bit. I think he could be our RB1, but not the RB1.
Yeah, and then they're still going to be down by 10 points at the half. A lot of games. So the game script's not going to be in the favor for him to get those touches to be that player and to get those boxes that allow for him to get an RB1. Now, back end RB1 is the ceiling, I believe, this year, and the talent's there, but the game script is not.
Right. In other words, what I'm saying right now is the smart money is selling Swift, because the hype is so high, you're not going to get higher value for him than right now. And so, I would be selling Swift and trying to take advantage of that for these upcoming drafts.
I also might be a buyer, come week 8 or 7 or 8, whenever everyone's low on him when he's not performing.
Exactly.
Because the team is not performing. It's really not going to be him, his talent. So, there's two ways you can go with it.
Like a stock market, and they have to understand, you buy the dips and you sell the highs, and you got to understand that. And right now is the time to sell the high, and so that's where I'm at on that. Overall, I give the Lions an A. I thought they did really well. I like both Owen Zarike, I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Aleem McNeil, both defensive linemen they picked up. They're both compared to Leonard Williams and Javon Hargrave, so you can't go wrong there. We already talked about Brown, the only offensive player up. They took a late running back, Jamar Jefferson, who I actually kind of like. And he's compared to Ronald Jones. And so I like the fact that he's 5'9" and 206. He's who knows? He may stick around. But anyway, final grades for the Lions?
B+.
A- for me.
A- for me too, and the B+ from Joe. All right, let's get to what I feel is the worst draft in the draft, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, they didn't have a very high pick at 1. They were 129, and they went. Now, Eric, don't get me wrong. I like Eric Stokes. He was the 8th cornerback taken. That's their number 1 pick. There were so many good players on the board that they needed that I felt they needed more of. And so I'm going to ask the guru here, the special, the IDP guy. What do you think of Stokes, and what do you think of their draft overall?
For me, I think Stokes was a bit of a reach. I think where they're drafting him at, they're going to be forced, and there needs to be forced to start him, but I don't think he's going to be ready. I think NFL offenses will be targeting him and targeting him often down the field. He's supposedly one of the fastest players in this draft. But they say that his instinct isn't there, and he can be beaten pretty quickly because he's often in the wrong spot or not in the right position. So I think there'll be a lot of growing pains with him, and there was other players there to take.
one of the things I talk about in DFS when we do our DFS show is I always like to look at the wide receiver quarterback matchups, and just about every week I'm playing receivers that are going up against rookie cornerbacks, and I definitely see that happening, especially in the NFC North, where I think there's going to be some shootouts. I think you're right, and then they go on with Josh Myers, Amari Rodgers. I kind of like him, but not a lot. He's small and kind of, heavy to me. I don't know. They compare him to Devin Duvernay, and then they get. I'm just not thrilled with it. I will tell you this: Thor gave him an F. I don't give him an F, but I feel like they're a D- in my opinion. Let's hear from the other NFC North guy, Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's Amari Rodgers. I think there's something there, but it's whether he strikes up a good relationship with Jordan Love, isn't it? So,
well, that explains all of it. Of course, we all got to talk about the fact that Aaron Rodgers is swearing he's not coming back.
Such a diva.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I think he's got a point. Again, if it's all, you don't know what's true and what's not, but obviously people are saying that, I read a piece today where, Andy Dalton was contacted and notified that the Bears were going to draft Justin Fields, and then it had another example. I think it was Jimmy Garoppolo was notified that the 49ers were going to contact Trey Lance, and then obviously I believe Garoppolo said, look, give him my number straight away. All that sort of level of respect, but apparently Rodgers wasn't notified whatsoever last year about the drafting of Jordan Love. So, but when you see this come out, is anybody really surprised? Because we said during the season, every time he played, he looked angry every single game, like he was on the ultimate mission to prove a point. And I think this was his point. He's like, right, no, this is how good I am, and I'm going to have an MVP kind of season, and then I'm going to ditch you because, and it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And yeah, there's rumours of the trade too. He's been linked with, is it the Broncos? I think. I know there was rumours with the 49ers ahead of the draft. Obviously, that won't happen now, but he's got to go somewhere. Hopefully, out of the NFC North. So, but yeah, Packers. Not the best draft, but you know what? They've dominated for that long, so don't care one bit. I'm going to give them like F.
Yeah. I mean D+ for me. And with the Rodgers take, quickly, I don't think that any of this is a surprise. Of course, we'll never know the full story for the most part. We're never, there on the inside, seeing what he put up with every day. But we have seen his attitude and the way he treats other people, even on his team, like Jordan Love, to be such a cold shoulder to a rookie. Like you said, Jimmy G and a few of these other guys, they welcome them with warm arms. And sure, maybe he didn't know that they were going to do that, but don't take that out on a kid. I mean, these guys are the rookies, they're basically kids. And to treat them like that, and kind of and do that, I'm not a fan of. And I get where he's coming from. They have drafted to not help them out much over the years, but you can handle that a different way. And like you said, he plays with an attitude. And if there's something that goes wrong, regardless if it's him or not, it's never his fault. I mean, from what I've seen. And so I don't know that there's going to be a good end to it because he almost has to hold his ground now.
So
yeah, he has to, yeah.
For dynasty and redraft purposes, I'm just going to throw this out to you guys for our listeners. Are you buying or are you selling Davante Adams right now?
Well, I'm selling Davante Adams everywhere just because of the level of elite he has reached. I don't think can be met again, even if none of this was happening with Rodgers. He's got a small window with Rodgers anyways, and to look past that, I think I'm a seller anyways. And then with this, for sure. And I'm a buyer if the owner of Davante Adams is trying to sell him relatively low, but that's probably not happening. So I probably can't afford it.
With Aaron Rodgers news.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah.
And so with the Aaron Rodgers news, are they wanting to rely on a guy with that much value with Jordan Love? And the way I look at it is, part of me thinks I want to buy. And the reason I say that is because There's nothing a rookie quarterback loves more than the biggest, best, and strongest target that he'll throw to 25 times a game. And I've seen rookies throw to their stud receivers, 15, 16, 17 targets a game. And so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm kind of in the camp of let me find some owner that's panicking and try to get Adams on for a song, especially in Dynasty.
Well, come at me in the Masters League then. I'm your man.
I should have just shut my trap. Oh, I just killed myself because I was going to go hunting for him. All right. Overall, I'm giving the Packers, like I said, a D. You guys, I think we went there. And by the way, guys, we're just going to cover the NFC tonight. And I think we need to come back on another night this week and do the AFC because we're going into detail, a lot of really good detail that I think our audience is going to appreciate. But I don't want to go, 2-3 hours tonight. And so,
nor do I.
Rocking a little bit on the NFC. Let's go ahead and get straight to the Los Angeles Rams. And I will tell you that this is another one of those where I'm not quite sure about that draft. I didn't have a chance to evaluate it a lot, but I will tell you that I'm not a big fan of Tutu Atwell, who they took in as their first pick. I'm just not a big fan of guys that are under 160 pounds. And he's
150. 149 is what he weighed in at.
Yeah, 149. And so and they took that guy number one. And I struggle with that a little bit. And then they didn't pick again to the third round. And that was a mid-second. And then they turn around and they take a linebacker, the 15th ranked linebacker comps to Kaiser, 6'1", 230, which I think is actually a undersized linebacker. I don't know, man. I'm just not thrilled with this. I think they're comparing to the Packers as far as overall grade for me.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, the Los Angeles Rams haven't really shown that they know exactly what they're doing in their front office moves, whether it's the draft, outside of trading for Stafford, or their contracts. I mean, the contracts that they've handed out, they have to hit the draft to continue to grow. Now, Stafford did bump them up, but this draft, I don't think, other than that linebacker in the third round you spoke of, who I think will be pretty good, I don't think that they really filled any glaring needs or made any actual a pick that was a good pick for the position they were in. So I think their window is very small with their due to their salary cap, and I'm not sure that this draft helped them at all in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with that. I thought it was just very underwhelming, really. I don't think it's even worth giving that much attention to. It was like a nothingness draft for them. And you're right, they've gone into win now mode because, like you say, these windows do close and their cap situation. But yeah, I just think a nothing draft. If I was a Rams fan, I'd be like, all right, okay.
They need an offensive lineman, right? Okay. They needed an offensive lineman last year, right? What did they do last year with their first pick? They took Van Jefferson, okay? And then this year, and then they took Cam Akers, which I like Cam Akers, but they took him with their second pick, their second rounder, because they didn't have a first rounder last year either. And so they take Van Jefferson last year, then they follow that up with Cam Akers, okay? This year, they don't have a first rounder, and then instead of an offensive lineman, they take Tutu Atwell. So now they got Van Jefferson, they got Atwell there. They still got Cooper Kupp. I mean, I don't get it. It's almost like if I was a Rams fan, poor Jacob Grider, he's probably sitting there shaking his head. I just don't get it. As a matter of fact,
like you said,
they get an F. I'm sorry, they're the worst.
Yeah, F for me. They're the worst. I think it was the worst draft in the league. And like you said, last year they took Van Jefferson, who showed some good signs and development, and then to turn around and take Tutu Atwell. Are you telling us you're going to, release Robert Woods after this year coming up and then not going to extend Cooper Kupp? I mean, what are you doing? And then the fact that they keep trading their early draft picks is almost a pattern telling me that maybe they understand that they're not that good at scouting. I mean, it could be something like that because for the most part, they are missing almost every pick in their drafts.
Maybe they say we suck.
And I think that is something that does happen in football where they say, hey, we're not necessarily the best department in this area, but let's go bring in players, that are veterans that want to play in California on a big market, and they're using that to their advantage, but they're also not taking advantage of the draft, which is a way to stay under the salary cap and afford those players.
But they won for the best draft room, right?
Say what?
They won for the best draft room?
Yeah, right. Roger Goodell.
All right, let's keep moving. The Minnesota Vikings. I'm kind of middle of the road here. I want to hear from Joseph Russell here. Once again, this is the NFC North, so I know he paid a lot of attention to the draft, and then we'll jump into you if you have to go. What do you think here, Joe?
This is kind of surreal, this one, because obviously I look at the Vikings picks of Christian Darrisaw and Kellen Mond, and in my mind that was our draft. That they were the people that we was going to get. Before I really wanted Darrisaw for a long time. I've sort of every time there's been on Twitter who we drafting, I've Darrisaw. People have put Fields, and I'm like, we're never going to get someone like that. So to look at them picks is quite surreal for us. I think Christian Darrisaw is a great offensive tackle. I think he's a great pickup. Kellen Mond's the interesting one. What does that say to Kirk Cousins? Kellen Mond is a talent, and for me, Kirk Cousins is too, for the money that guy gets, he's too inconsistent. But on his day, he's very talented. But luckily for us and other fans in the NFC North, he's not constantly consistent. So I think there's a little sign of intent for him there, and it'll go one way or the other. It might kick him up the arse a little bit, for this season coming. But I think a reasonable draft from the Vikings. Like so, Darrisaw, I really rated pre-Thursday night. So I think they've made a real great move there. So could be a lot worse.
Well, and like you said about the Bears, you could have seen those first two picks be your exact picks, in Chicago. That goes to show that, they got those same players several rounds later. They were 23 and 66. Those are the talents that should have been going right around where your picks were. So I think they did pretty well overall. And the Kellen Mond, pick was maybe a wake-up call for Kirk Cousins. Hopefully, I'm sure that's what they're shooting for. But overall, their draft, they had a lot of picks, and I think they filled a lot of depth. They with Darrisaw's an immediate starter, of course, but Chaz Surratt's depth, Wyatt Davis, Patrick Jones. This team, when healthy, they had a lot of defenders hurt last year, but when healthy, this is a dangerous team. This is my pick to win the NFC North. They are very dangerous.
Yeah, and they had all the pieces with Jefferson and Thielen, and of course, Dalvin Cook and Kirk. I will say this: their grade for me is a B. I think it could have been higher without Kellen Mond. There were so many good plays on the board when they took him as their second player, because I think he's a good game manager. I don't ever see him. He doesn't have a strong enough arm to play the deep game, and for the NFL, and so he's always going to be that backup, for me, and for them to spend their second pick on a quarterback when Christian Kirk is, I'm not Christian Kirk, but
and you're right. I think they might have a decent. I think they might have a decent season. Obviously, Irv Smith Jr. is going to slot nicely into the tight end position now as well. So they look pretty strong. But again, they could be scored on as well. They're another team that may have to just outscore the opposition. But with with JJ there, and it's they got every opportunity to do that.
Right.
Well, and you look at their team; they're almost a star-studded team at a lot of the star positions. They, Adam Thielen is a potential top 14 wide receiver every year. Justin Jefferson obviously is an emerging wide receiver. You said Irv Smith. He is a top prospect at tight end that I think could reach the top 10 this year. And then, of course, Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back, and Kirk Cousins.
Just to say, I'm interested, Joe, on Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he come in and had pretty much the perfect rookie season, didn't he? So it's really now this next season is where maybe we really judge him, because obviously other organisations, they've had a year of watching him play now. It doesn't necessarily get easier, it just gets harder. So, if he's shut down in a few games this season, I wouldn't be too surprised, because people start to learn, they'll read the plays. This year was all about surprise, the element of surprise, and the talent that he had anyway, just made it even better. So it'd be quite interesting to see where, what happens with him. I'm not sure what their schedule is. But.
I don't think he will replicate this coming season again with the points he put up, but he doesn't have to still be a top 10 dynasty wide receiver, in my opinion. He can have 50 points less, and he's still going to be a stud. And Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's not the greatest under pressure, but he's very competent. He's better than a game manager, in my opinion. He's just been, on the edge of considered at least a Tom Brady type, winning quarterback. Now, not Tom Brady at all, but he's that type of player. He just hasn't found it. And I honestly thought the most likely quarterback to go to San Francisco in a trade this whole time, I thought, was Kirk Cousins. Yeah. And it didn't happen, and there really wasn't even much talk about it. But I really think he ends up back with Shanahan, and I think that's going to be when he really takes off and somebody fully commits to him.
Well, on the Jefferson discussion, I truly believe that NFL defenses figured out very quickly how good he was, and by the final third of the season, almost the final half of the season, he was throwing CB1 on opposing defenses. And so they were doing everything they could to stop him. They just can't. He really is that good. He's really that good. Or he's already a top 5 route runner, okay? And he's got the speed to burn. They can't stop him. And so I think he will match his numbers from last year, because he's becoming a better route runner. And he was facing the CB1s on those teams. And I think the fact that Irv Smith is going to emerge, and the fact their offensive line is going to give I always do that, Kirk Cousins a little bit more, that extra second that he needs, is going to make a big difference. And I think he could replicate it. Maybe receivers always have a better year. They're usually year 2 and year 3s when they peak. I don't think we've seen him peak. That's just my opinion. And so I don't think he took anybody by surprise after week 6 or week 7. I think they figured him out quick, that they have to put their best or double cover him, and he still beat double coverages. As a matter of fact, he beat double coverages better than like 88% of the wide receivers in the NFL last year. And so when you got a guy that can beat double coverages as a rookie, he's not going to get worse. So that's just my take on that one. And I think you're right. I think the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions, they need to watch out. The Vikings are going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
So, good deal. Let's jump to the Saints. Another one that I'm kind of just not crazy about. They did get hurt. I like him as an edge. And they needed it. But and Werner, you can say what you want about Werner. I'm just not thrilled with this thing. I feel like they wasted picks. Ian Book in the 4th round. Come on, man. That's a complete waste. And,
their draft was very boring. They didn't necessarily swing and miss, completely on who was there, but they were always picking a guy that there was someone better, 2 people better almost. Peyton Turner. I mean, there was a couple edge rushers still available that they passed on, and the same thing with Pete Werner, and Adebo is a need, but he's going to come in and he's probably not even going to start for him, and they don't even have a starting, both starting corners there. So I'm not sure what they're still going to do there, unless they're going to roll them out there and let him fail and learn on the spot. But and like you said, Ian Book, that was just a terrible pick. And then of course they're 6th and 7th. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, very boring.
Yeah, and one of the comments that Thor said, they passed on superior players time and time again.
Who do you start as QB this year, Joe?
Oh, it's got to be Jameis Winston. And I say that with very little confidence, because Sean Payton has had an infatuation with Taysom Hill this whole time, and I don't understand it. I'm okay with the packages where he comes in and switches it up a little bit, but full drives, and to choose Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston, who, for fantasy football purposes, is a top 12 quarterback. Even in this time in football where we have a lot of stud quarterbacks, you put him with Sean Payton, Alvin Kamara. We thought we've seen the best Alvin Kamara. I think with Jameis Winston under helm, he's going to hit that 400-plus points because Jameis Winston's going to stretch the field, and then Alvin Kamara is going to be there. I mean, everyone knows what Alvin Kamara is doing when the Drew Brees, drop back. He's going to chip, and then he's going to be available. Everyone knew that. Now Jameis Winston's going to open up 10 yards down the field plus that Drew Brees couldn't do. And Michael Thomas also has this stigma around him that he can't stretch the field. And if you look at Michael Thomas's stats, when he is thrown to 12 yards or further down the field, he has one of the highest catch rates in the league. It never happens because Drew Brees hasn't been able to do that in quite some time. Now, I don't think Michael or Jameis Winston's necessarily the savior there, but I think there's a chance, and I think he definitely deserves for taking league minimum salary last year and then coming back this year where I would have to assume somebody offered him more money. So it's got to be Jameis Winston. They have to give him a chance.
It will be. And from what I understand is Brees spent a lot of time with him and taught him how to be a pro. And he started saying it and acting like a pro. And I'm telling you, you're right. I can't wait to see him go out there and play YOLO again, but with more precision and a little bit smarter thinking. I think a whole year with Drew Brees is what he needed.
He'll have people there to help him, to try to mold him. In Tampa Bay, he was just given the reins, and no one ever tried pulling him back a little bit, and nor was he. I mean, Florida is not a place that we all knew coming out of college that Jameis Winston needed to be hanging around. Not that New Orleans is that much, further away, but I think that if he's going to succeed in the NFL with his style of football, that old school gunslinger mentality, he's in the spot. And for fantasy football, I got every share of him I could last year. And I think that those dividends will pay off, barring Sean Payton trying to get fired.
Yeah, I think they're going to realize he's the best true quarterback. They're going to I think they're going to play just like they did last year. I think Winston's going to be their starting quarterback, and I think they're going to mix in dumbass. But and I think that's going to be the way it works. Overall, I'm giving the Saints. A lot of NFC teams have gotten bad grades from me. I give them a D. And matter of fact, I probably should give him a D minus.
Yeah, I give him a C minus. But let's not be confused. This is still a top 5 team in the NFC and a Super Bowl contending team. Just because they didn't draft so well, they have a lot of veterans on that team that are returning, and Jameis Winston's going to open that offense up. I think they're still a dangerous team.
I can't argue that. That's a fair argument, Joseph.
I'll finish off with. I'm gonna give the Saints a C. I think that quarterback makes the entire difference. To how that franchise moves forward. Because if it is Taysom Hill, like you say, you write off not half of, but a lot of Alvin Kamara's production, which is a nightmare all round. So I think Jameis Winston, he didn't stay there again and stay on for no reason. So I think he must feel pretty confident on that. But if you don't mind, chaps, I'm going to let you finish off the NFC because we've gone over an hour and it's 2:15 and I've got to get up in 4 hours. So I'll let you two wrap up the NFC and
we'll get back with you on the AFC later in the week.
Perfect.
Yep. Good talking to
Cheers,
you, brother.
chaps.
Take care,
no
Joseph.
problem. See you soon.
All right, we're gonna hustle through these last few teams and go through AFC next or later this week. Let's just jump to Gettleman Unplugged. What do you think of what Gettleman did for the Giants?
I didn't hate it. I think the Giants are really showing that they are putting their chips in to try to continue to improve. And Kadarius Toney, I don't think he was necessarily the best choice for them right there, but he is talented. He will be another weapon for Daniel Jones to use, but he's very similar to the weapons he already has outside of Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, he reminds me of Curtis Samuel,
Yeah, which is a good thing, but in a sense, you already I mean, Sterling Shepard isn't necessarily like that, but he's also similar, like just not as good. And the same with Darius Slayton. So
when I think of a guy that you take in the top 11 picks overall, first round, you need a guy like a Jefferson or Chase. You need one of those kind of guys. I don't see him as that kind of guy.
Do you remember when the St. Louis Rams chose Tavon Austin in the first round?
Yes. And when the Raiders,
this is
runs.
Yes, this is. I think this may be comparable to that. Obviously, it's too early to see him because Tavon Austin was a huge miss. This guy, I think, can go out there and run in the slot and maybe do a little more. But that's kind of my comparison. I think that they're not going to be happy with this, 2 or 3 years down the line.
Right, I agree. What'd you think of Aziz? There's more and more players that I can't pronounce their names.
Yeah,
than there
I'm
ever
not sure
has.
either. Ulari or something like that. But I know his talent. He was a first-round talent. This was just a draft that was so top-heavy for offensive needs that got pushed back. But he was a very good pick there, and it's something that they needed. They have quietly worked on their defense. Within the last 2 years, they brought in Blake Martinez, which is a really, really good linebacker, probably a top 6-7 linebacker. And they also have Williams there, Leonard Williams, I believe, on their defensive tackle, interior tackle. He's a top 10 tackle. So this is a great pick for them, too. They've had a huge issue of not pressuring the quarterback. And this is definitely a hole that they needed filled, as was their corner that they chose in the third round. Overall, I think outside of Tony, their middle round picks were great choices. And I'm not too knowledgeable on their round 6 choices that they made, but I'm sure those are depth pieces, unless you get real lucky. So overall, I gave them a B+, and I think for the Giants, they filled a lot of holes. And Daniel Jones, it's time to put up or see you later, bud.
I just traded Daniel Jones for Ryan Tannehill and a second rounder.
Wow, you won that by a mile because Ryan Tannehill is like a Kirk Cousins to me, but a little better for fantasy football. He's a top 14 quarterback, every year, and no one seems to want to hold on to him. They're always trying to move him. And it should be the other way around. You should have had to have given up a second rounder and to do that. Instead, you got one. So that's great. That's awesome.
But I do like both their edge rushers. The Giants pick, I give them a C+, because I'm not a big fan of taking Tony that quick. I think there's other receivers I would have taken before him. And so, but I do like their edge rushers. I even like Aaron Robinson, the cornerback they got. And so you're right. They did really well on defense. I don't even know why they drafted Gary Brightwell and Rodarius Williams, but you know what? They know more than we do. We're just fantasy guys.
Yeah, and they're looking at probably moving on. They moved on from Wayne Gallman, so I'm sure that's a need that they had, and they'll have in the future if they plan to extend. Saquon Barkley is just to have a competent running back on the roster, and they didn't have to bring in a veteran to do it. I don't think it was a terrible pick. He's not going to be a stud, but Wayne Gallman wasn't either. Their O-line is underrated for run blocking. We saw what Wayne Gallman did in the absence of Barkley. And I think if this were to, if Barkley were to go down again, this guy may be able to sustain that kind of production.
He's got the size. He's 220 pounds, 6'1".
Yeah.
And so, we'll see. I will tell you, once I'm gonna wrap it up on Kadarius Toney. They took him, and there was still Rashad Bateman and Elijah Moore.
Yeah, Bateman was a much better choice right there.
Yeah, or more. In my opinion. So overall, we'll see how it goes. Let's just jump to the Philadelphia Eagles. This is one I was pretty excited about. I actually like this draft. I love Devontae Smith, even though he's a little small. He is really, really. He knows how to get off the line of scrimmage. And so I like that pick a lot, especially considering, Chase was already off the board and so was Waddle. And so, for being the third receiver taken, I thought they had good value on that one. And I also like Dickerson, offensive line, and I thought they did pretty well. Then they got Kenneth Gainwell's the interesting one for me because they got him in the 5th round, and I thought he should have been at least a 3rd rounder. But hey, I mean, what are your thoughts on Philly?
I think they did. They had a great draft. They filled needs that they had to fill, and going wide receiver and lineman with their first 2 picks was exactly what Jalen Hurts needs. I mean, with Jalen Reagor, continuing to develop, he wasn't exactly up to the hype quite yet last season, and Travis Fulgham was overperforming in the role he was playing, and they needed a number 2, and I think Devontae Smith could be kind of like him and Reagor can almost be a 1A, 1B.
Oh, I love it.
So I think that was a great choice. And then picking, Landon Dickerson as a lineman, I mean, they needed protection for Hurts, who is going to be running around a lot. And then going defense, because they obviously have a lot of, defensive holes as well. And I think, like you said, Zach McPherson it was a good choice. And I think he could be a pretty good complementary corner immediately for them. And that edge they got from Coastal Carolina, who I've never heard of, Taron Jackson, I was actually reading up on him earlier, and he could be a pretty interesting pick. It may take him a year or so to develop, but he could be a pretty good steal in the 6th round.
So let me ask you this. All right, fantasy question. Implication. Are you buying or are you selling Jalen Reagor right now? I'm buying him.
Yeah, I'm buying him for sure. Now, if I had to choose between Reagor and Smith, if I'm in a startup draft, I'm going to take Smith, but just a slight edge. But I think I would buy either one of them. And Jalen Reagor, a lot of fantasy football, it's a lot of owners are about what have you done for me lately? And Jalen Reagor didn't really do a lot lately, and so you could probably get him at a reasonable price and with a pretty big ceiling. I think we've seen him close to his floor. So with Jalen Hurts there and continuing to develop, as long as he can just hit the throws he has to hit, the open throws, I think Jalen Reagor, has a chance to be realistically, without his ceiling, I think he's a back end, wide receiver too. And in a league right now that's pass heavy, that's pretty good numbers. That would be top 10 numbers, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'll take it to a little bit of a higher degree. I believe Reagor, I believe his skill set and his abilities is considerably better than what he showed last year. The Eagles were a mess last year. They were a disaster, right? I mean, we all agree with that. I believe he's going to be taking a second-year leap, unlike any you've seen in a while. I think with Smith on the other side, because I mean, who were their receivers last year? I mean, Travis Fulgham,
Deshaun Jackson,
and of course the big galoot. What was his name that might as well retire? Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, they had nothing, and I just believe that Reagor is going to have a really, really big sophomore season. I think a lot of people are going to wish they had bought him while they could.
Well, and I'm rooting for their receivers in general, because they've kind of been a place to avoid fantasy production for wide receivers for several years now. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey had a good year and a half there, decent, but never up to the hype that you were having to draft him at. So I'm definitely pulling for him, because you can get these guys in redrafts for pretty cheap. So I think they're definitely worth the stock in ADP right now.
Yep. Cool. So overall, I'm giving them a B. I don't know what your grade is.
Yeah, I would say I'd say a B plus. I mean, they definitely they could have done worse with their first pick. I didn't see them even having a chance at Smith. So that's what they did what they should have done right there.
All right, let's go to the 49ers. Trey Lance. They passed on a few guys. Everybody thought they were going to go with Mac Jones, and then a lot of people thought it was a no-brainer to go with, of course, what's his name from Ohio State? Sorry. But they went with Trey Lance.
I think it was the right choice. I think for the scheme that they're trying to run there, that they got the quarterback that they wanted all along. I think, I haven't heard them say that, but I think that pairing him, and I think they're, they got a guard in the second round, but that running back, Trey Sermon, in the third round was a great pick. And, I know that they're kind of a running back by committee, but that's good for a rookie. I mean, that's perfect. He doesn't have to take the full load and the pressure, and that'll allow him time to get the touches and develop at the same time. So I think that they nailed, especially the early part of their draft. I mean, those first 3 picks were all, studs at that position.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And a good draft like this, I think, throws them back into a deep playoff contention. The NFC has a lot of teams that, I think are in that, kind of area. And I think this draft pushes them over the Rams in their division and pushes them, in that realm of being around Arizona and even Seattle. Seattle's draft wasn't that great. So and Wilson's not that happy there either. So
I'm telling you, I'm looking down this list, and I'm seeing so many better drafts on the AFC side than the NFC side. It's almost kind of weird. I don't know if it's just my eyes, my vision, but I haven't given a lot of A's out. We're almost done with the NFC.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of C's and D's and F's, and so I'm just blown away. And so I do agree. They have a lot of talent now, especially at receiver. And they didn't have to get a receiver at all. And,
tight end, receiver, running back, they're pretty stacked. I mean, as far as depth goes.
They added Trey Sermon to that running back carriage, and so it's going to be really interesting to watch what these guys do. But there's some guys that they picked up, even in the 5th round. Jalen Moore on offensive tackle, I like that guy, and so they did pretty good, and so I'm giving them a B+.
Yep, B+ for me. They quietly, outside of Trey Lance, that was a pretty, everyone was curious on what they would do, but outside of that, I mean, really, they didn't do anything wrong, I don't think. I mean, they even got that an offensive tackle in round 5 that is going to just be a great piece to fill in when needed, because they brought back who's that big lineman they brought back that the Chiefs tried to get. Is that Trent Williams?
Yeah, Trent Williams.
Yeah, so they brought him back this offseason to steal him from the Chiefs. Well, not steal him, but to him choose them over the Chiefs was pretty surprising to me. So yeah, I really like their offseason in general and what they've done in previous drafts. They drafted their entire defense almost outside of Richard Sherman. With Fred Warner and Bosa, and they even traded away the defensive lineman DeForest Buckner, but they drafted him. They drafted Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, they've been hitting. So I'm very interested to see. I think they know what they're doing, and I'm very interested to watch them in the NFC West.
Yep, I think that division's theirs for the taking, especially with the Rams where they're going. Seattle, and as a matter of fact, let's go straight to Seattle. Wow, what can you say? They had 3 picks, right? 3 total picks, and one was in the second, then they had a 4th and a 6th. Dwayne Eskridge was their number 1 player taken in the second round, a wide receiver, kind of a comp to McCole Hardman. What are your thoughts on Seattle? What the hell happened here?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I feel like even if they were to take a receiver there, I feel like they reached. But he will stretch the field. I feel like DK Metcalf can do that, and DK Metcalf's just good all around. But this will be the guy to maybe open up some underneath routes for Metcalf or Lockett, who also can stretch the field. But his primary, if he's out there, especially early, I think his primary job will be to stretch the field and open up, some routes underneath. Outside of that, they got some depth maybe at corner, which is a need for them. And then, honestly, the best thing they got in this draft was Stone Forsythe. And the only reason I think that is because I love the first name Stone. So that's the best thing they got going for them this draft.
They got him in the 6th round, and that was their best thing. But listen to this quote from Thor is, I like the Forsythe flyer late. especially for an organization that always needs offensive line help. But felt any gain Seattle made only served to offset the losses from the Eskridge reach. Non-factor draft by a team that doesn't appear to value the draft very much.
Yep.
And you know what? The last thing I think I thought they needed was a receiver. And that was their first play. I just don't get it. And so,
and just a kind of a hot take here. I think this is Pete Carroll's last year in Seattle, with the Russell Wilson, unhappiness, this draft, and really just some previous things that they've done, and their lack of being able to take a top 5 quarterback for the last, 8 years or however long, to only win 1 Super Bowl when Pete Carroll did lose them that second Super Bowl. Is without a shadow of a doubt when he threw it on 1st and goal. I think this is my pick to be his last year.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. That's a great take. Let's note that one, because I like
back
that
to that.
Yeah, I like that take. Okay, and I finally figured out what that little Hoover sound was. I had the wrong microphone on. It was my laptop microphone and not my Yeti. I just made a switch, so hopefully the last few minutes of the episode is going to be great audio. My bad. All right, so overall, I give the Seahawks an F. And and they would probably give themselves an F. They only had 3 picks anyway. And so let's go to Tampa Bay, and then we'll wrap it up with the Washington football team. Tampa Bay, I'm telling you, the NFC drafts were not what I thought they were. I think all the studs went to the AFC, but I mean, obviously not all of them. I am just kind of dumbfounded on this draft. Now I do like Joe Tryon, their first pick on the edge as an edge rusher. He's compared, to Robert Quinn type, but the rest of the draft, Kyle Trask, sorry, I don't see it. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Tampa Bay?
I agree with Trask. I think the pick, if they saw a little bit in him, or maybe, who knows, maybe Tom Brady had something to do with this choice and saw something in this guy. If you do see something in him, it is the right time to bring in a quarterback, because you have the greatest of all time. And he is committed to you for what I believe to be at least 2 more years. So if this kid is going to have any type of realistic opportunity in the NFL down the road, this is the best landing spot, not to mention that all the weapons they have. But you said Joe Tryon, compared to Robert Quinn, that's spot on, as well as Jason Pierre-Paul. He's very similar in size, and I think he's going to be a similar type player that they don't have to count on this year. And he's a first-round draft pick. So I really liked both of those picks for the long-term outlook. And that's really probably Bruce Arians looking past Tom Brady now, for his job too, because Tom Brady's not going to be there forever. And so I think that for developmental purposes, I think those first 2 picks were really good. And then alignment, interior lineman in the 3rd round is something that is very undervalued in football in general. You can't have too many of them. So they necessarily weren't the sexiest picks, but I think for continuing to build the team that they have to compete for years to come, I think that they made some pretty good choices in their first 3 picks.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joe Tryon, and I also like Hainsey as well. And I can make an argument that I like KJ Britt at linebacker as well. But you and I differ a little bit on Trask. I see Trask as I just don't like him. I just maybe it's my Florida Gator bias. I don't
I didn't necessarily like the player either. And the jury's gonna still be out on that, but I do like the landing spot, and I like what they did. I mean, really, where they were, I don't know of any quarterback that would have been any better, necessarily a better prospect. So
I don't think they needed to take one this year. I think they could. Right. I think that was the 64th pick in the draft. I think they could have gotten another offensive tackle. They could have got another tight end. There's a lot of things they could have done. By the way, do you know that Kyle Pitts is the only tight end we've talked about in the NFC?
And continue to be that way, though, right?
Yeah. What I'm just saying is they're all on the AFC side. But there wasn't a whole lot. But anyway, we'll get to that. But overall, I give them a C minus, and maybe a C C plus maybe, or a C. They're not as bad as some of the others we've had a lot of D's and F's in the last few picks, but where are you at on them? Grade?
I give them a B. I mean, I think I without looking into the Buccaneers too much, I think I see what those picks were about. That they are not, because with Tom Brady's age, I mean, the decline that we've all been wanting is got to happen sometime. And so
I hate that guy.
They're at least using some type of, maybe emergency route, with that. And again, I agree with you that they didn't necessarily need to take him this year, but I've also heard that the draft class next year in 2022 for quarterbacks is very thin. So they may be thinking that, that way. They may be thinking, hey, let's go ahead and take one now and, do what we want to do next year and not have to worry about that position, as a backup for years with Brady here.
Yep. That's fair. It'll be fun to watch and see how that rolls out. All right, we're gonna one more. We're gonna wrap it up. This has been a lot of fun, and what I do like about this, even though it's taken a little while, is we're diving deep into some of these thoughts, and it's exciting. It really, we're getting granular, and that's a good thing. Washington football team, they had a lot of picks. I mean, 12 picks. And so what do you think of the linebacker Jamin Davis that they picked up first?
Instant starter, which is something they needed. They had a lot of age at linebacker. They drafted heavy defensive backs and front four linemen and edge rushers the last several drafts, and they really focused on that because they had Cole Holcomb and I believe it's Tom or Davis Senior, I forget his first name, who they're on the field all the time. They do what they need to do, but this will be some good youth for them, and I think that it's something they needed, and it was a must-have in the first round. And I really thought that this is exactly where he would land too. I didn't see anyone taking a linebacker before them besides Parsons, and then they went tackle, which is great. They filled a lot of needs. I mean,
they did.
Diami Brown.
I love Brown.
Yes,
in almost the fourth round. That guy's a stud.
I think he's going to be their potential of being their wide receiver 3. They brought in Curtis Samuel this offseason.
Right, and they got Terry McLaurin, and so I actually think he has the. I think at 6 foot, 189 with his speed and his ball hawking. I mean, I honestly believe that he could be their number 2.
Yeah, he could be.
Not year one, maybe, but I think ultimately he and McLaurin are going to be studs, and Samuel's going to continue playing that kind of slot role. And I don't know, that's just kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It depends on how I hope they use Samuel similar to how Carolina did, because that got the most out of that type of player. But yeah, I love everything they did overall. I mean, they went for depth and they went for need early and depth late, which is, sounds like something simple, but as we see, a lot of these NFL franchises don't necessarily do what we think they should do. And often we see after the draft, a year or two in, we see that we were right. Like I kind of mentioned at the draft, in one of our group messengers, that we see that not everyone knows what they're doing. I mean, Mel Kiper's mock draft might as well have been mine.
I know. So, that guy, he's losing it, man.
Yeah.
Anybody could be great in the first round. But boy, yeah, and he wasn't even good there. There's one play on this team, the 7th rounder. Their second 7th rounder. They had 3 of them. But Shaka Toney, edge rusher, he is a project, right?
Yes,
he's got speed. He's 6'2", he's 242. He's got speed. I think he's one of those guys that could be like a Danielle Hunter that may take a few years and just blow up. And I really like that guy. I'm going to keep an eye on that guy, somebody that was almost like a throw-in draft pick. And so just one of my thoughts. But anyway, I don't know if you had any kind of scouting on him.
No, I didn't. But they have been hitting on their edge rushers the last couple of years with Montez Sweat quietly,
right.
And then Chase Young was a big. Everyone knew he was going to be a star,
right?
So yeah, I'm excited for Tony, and then they also
King.
Same round drafted King, who again I don't know much about, but they're late round flyers that won't cost them anything.
But think what they get to learn. They get to learn behind Chase Young and Sweat. And just think about what they're going to be able to learn through camp and all that. Now, obviously, knowing me, one or both of them might not even make the damn roster. But I do like Shaka Tony, and I'm gonna kind of look forward to his progress as we go. Overall, I give them a C. Maybe just because of, well, they had to do what they had to do, and they went after they went after that defensive player up front. But I love De'Ami Brown in the third round, and I like some of their other plays. I like Jameer Davis, so I'm gonna give them a B minus.
Yeah, it's a B for me. And I'm excited. I've probably never said this really especially since Kirk Cousins hasn't been there, but I'm excited to see what they do, how it goes to the field, because they're exciting to watch on defense. And maybe with bringing in Curtis Samuel, that'll help their offense, because outside of Terry McLaurin and now the emergence of Gibson, maybe they're going to be well-rounded. I'm excited to see that. And I think between them and Dallas, I give Dallas a slight edge because of their offense, but I think Washington is more of a dangerous team matchup-wise in the NFC if they make the playoffs than Dallas. I could see Washington being a quiet team that reaches the potential conference championship and surprise a lot of people. I mean, this last year, they played the Buccaneers as good as anyone in the NFC playoffs.
Yes, they did.
They became the closest to beating them. And if they were to have, maybe not to say Alex, they had what they had. They worked with what they had, and they did the best they could. And I think they're only going up from here. So I'm excited for them.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Hey, this was fun. You ready to do the AFC in a couple of days? Yeah.
You just let me know a time, and I'll be here.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you. What do you guys? When is the next release of your show?
We will release an episode either this coming Sunday or Monday, but we're going to shoot for Sunday. Sometimes for my job, I've got to be away for stretches. I'm working for the military full time, so I'm currently on my 2-week stretch, but it ends this Friday. So I'll go back home and get with Jordan, and we'll get something put together. And I'm pretty excited for doing that every other week. I really enjoy it.
Well, I've actually got plans for another show, and I would love to put a bigger panel together. And I just want you to think about that, because I wouldn't mind having you on another show.
Okay, so, I look forward to it, and I appreciate you bringing me on. This is a lot of fun, and really there's a lot to this stuff that it's more than offense, which I know a lot of the IDP more than most, really, but I also play offense. So this is great. We're able to talk both, because I played ADP for many years. But right now everybody's like, well, damn, you're in full blown golf mode, and you know what I am, but I still remember a little bit about football. Yeah, and don't forget to mention you're succeeding at that. So that's what the big take is. So you're doing well at it.
Well, I won enough today to pay a couple bills, and so I'm pretty happy about that. But anyway, well, hey man, this has been a great show. Thank you for taking the time out. We're gonna get this published, and I'll send you a message. We'll schedule AFC. So if you're watching on YouTube, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. Please give us a like, give us a comment, let us know what you think, if you like or disagree or agree, and let us know what you're looking for when we break down the AFC. Other than that, any final thoughts there, Joe?
No. Yep. Just let us know anything that we can improve on, or anything you want us, hear us talk about, anything you want us to look into. We're open to that. That's what it's all about.
Yep. All right. For everybody getting ready to start your rookie drafts, have a lot of fun. And if you need anything, always DM Fantasy GI Joe on Twitter. Hammerjacks1. You got Hammer Conde. All of us guys, tweet out any thoughts you have for your rookie drafts, or send us DMs. We'll be happy to answer any and all your questions. And until then, peace out. See ya.
Yep.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to hammercast.com. Subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.